Welcome back to the Humble Healer podcast with Dr. Quang Lei, family medicine physician. And thank you for taking your time checking out this episode. And I hope that you find this worthwhile, your time. And today we'll talk about compassion as a path to contentment and happiness. Compassion is the definition of compassion is as a sense of concern that arises when we are confronted with another suffering and feel motivated to see that suffering relieved. Compassion connects empathy to the act of kindness, generosity, and other expression of altruistic tendencies. And it can be cultivated from maternal nurturing or being nurtured by anyone, especially at a young age, but also during adulthood. And also nurturing of others can also bring compassion to self. It is something that we can all learn to develop. Quote from the Dalai Lama: one who shows compassion for others become the first recipient. And this is very true that there are many scientific studies showing that showing compassion for self and others can be very good for our health and happiness. So you can not only improve the lives of others by showing compassion, but also improve your own. It's a win-all approach to living your life. And in neuroscience, the studies show that our reward centers light up when we help others. And the dopamine, which is the one of the major reward transmitters spiked up when we show compassion and also help others. And it's called helper's high. And those who volunteer were found by researchers to have a distinct feeling of calmness and enhanced self-worth following volunteer activities. The loving and cuddling hormone, oxytocin, and the pleasure hormones, endorphins, are also involved in this reward pathway. And oxytocin reduces the body inflammation and is part of an active rest and digest system, which I talked extensively about in the previous series about activating the rest and digest system for happiness and health, good health. A study was done by a Harvard psychologist show an increase in immunoglobulin A or IgA in saliva of those research subjects after showing them a film about Mother Teresa taking care of the sick people in Calcutta, India. Another study by a Michigan scientist showed that those who do volunteer work on a regular basis live longer. In the Netflix series called The Blue Zone, where this American documentary movie producer went to 5 different areas in the world with the highest concentration of centenarians, who are the people that live beyond 100 years. And one of those areas is Loma Linda in California. And he found that among a few other things, Loma Linda has a very high rate of volunteer activities ingrained in the culture of that city. And he credited that as one of the reasons why they have the highest concentration of centenarians. So helping others help you live longer and, of course, more happily and also more with better health. Another study also found that reaching out to help others can induce a feeling of happiness, calmer mind, and less depression. A 30-year study of Harvard graduates found that adopting an altruistic lifestyle is a critical component of good mental health. 10 minutes of praying, meditation for others' well-being can also help bring a lot more joy and happiness and contentment for the whole day. When we close our heart, we cannot be joyful or happy and have the courage to live with an open heart and feel our pain and the pain of others. And this allows us to experience more contentment and joy. The bigger and warmer our heart, the stronger our sense of aliveness and resilience. There is this story that I got from the Book of Joy where it talks about this inmate of a death row. His name is Ray Hinton. And I actually looked him up in Google also. And it's a true story about Ray, who spent 30 years as a death row inmate and who was put in prison for the wrong reason because of a bias system against him. And he was so angry against the system that for the first 4 years in prison, he did not want to speak to anyone. He took a vow of silence, and if he needed to communicate, he just wrote down what he needed to say. But then one night when he was in his prison cell, he overheard crying in the next cell. And his mother's love and compassion for him prompted him to ask what was the reason for the crying. And the inmate in the neighboring cell told him that he just lost his own mother. So Ray told that man that, here, now you have someone in heaven who's arguing your case before God for you. Then he told him another joke, and they both laughed, and suddenly he rediscovered his voice and humor. And for the following 26 years, he decided to focus on other problems, bringing love and compassion to a loveless place, and was able to discover joy and contentment in one of those most joyous places in the planet. He became connected with both the inmates and the guard and found his own family in there. When he was finally exonerated for being proven innocent, he was asked whether he was angry to the system or the people that put him in prison. And Ray said, I already been in prison for 30 years, and I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to forgive. And I'm going to set myself free with this forgiveness and compassion, and dedicating the rest of my life to help those that was innocent and found put in prison for the wrongly put in prison. Animals have been shown to display compassion for one another, as anyone with pets have noticed. I have dogs and cats and have observed many instances of compassion shown by one another for one animal for another, even for one species to another. So when you think about alleviating others' suffering, our own sufferings is alleviated. Compassion for others keeps us away from self-centeredness, which creates a lot of unhappiness, anxiety, and fear. And it allows us to grieve without being lost in our grief. The lack of compassion in the modern world is linked to increased self-centeredness and social isolation in the modern generation, which is closely related to the use of social media and electronics. When you become so inward looking, self-regarding, you are going to end up a shriveled human being. Compassion for others also promotes what we call reciprocal altruism, and it improves our survival advantage, not the opposite as fear by those who are concerned about being taken advantage of, as one shows compassion. In a sense, it's called, if you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Everyone wins. Compassion is contagious also. We become more compassionate when we witness compassionate actions. So compassionate action promotes moral elevation, extending to 2 to 3 degrees of separation, meaning that one can inspire another, and then the other, and then they inspire another, and then another, until it dies out. Imagine the ripple effect of that in the community if everyone does that. There was an example of a Dunkin' Donut or Dunkin' drive-through in which each car voluntarily pays for the car behind them and is paying forward. One time that reached to 57 cars. So not just 2 to 3 degrees, but that was phenomenal. 57 cars paying for the next customer. Compassion is also more powerful than empathy, which simply means experiencing another's emotion. Compassion allows us to want what is best for others. And we can talk about cannot talk about compassion without mentioning self-compassion, which is the main topic for the very first episode of this YouTube channel. Please check that out. It actually happened to be my most popular episode. Also, it's essential for anyone to develop self-compassion in order to cultivate more compassion for others. It's possible to be compassionate without having self-compassion, which I have witnessed countless numbers of times in the healthcare profession, where I see compassionate nurses and doctors not practicing self-compassion, end up having burnout, stressed, and resulting in a lot of negative consequence in their lives and their health and happiness. And some even led to those individuals leaving healthcare profession altogether. And that's unfortunate because they would have been able to help so many more patients had they invested or taught how to invest more in their own self-compassion. And we talked about how modern culture makes it difficult to develop self-compassion, but please refer to that first episode because that is a very important part of this episode for developing compassion for others. Compassion can flow naturally when we understand and work to remove our fears and our resistance to it. Compassion is one of the most difficult and courageous of all our motivation, but it is also the most healing and elevating. It is a short poem from an ancient Chinese philosopher. The sage is kind to the kind. He is also kind to the unkind. Because of the nature of his being is kindness. He sees everything as his own self. I hope you find this episode helpful and informative. And please, if you like the information, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button and the bell notification for new episodes, and share with family and friends. If you do see the episode on Facebook, and make sure subscribe to the YouTube channel to help promote this content more. And thank you for your time. And hopefully you will pause and think about incorporating compassion in your everyday lives. It does help you feel better. It does help promote serenity and calmness and improve the sense of self-worth and bring fulfillment to both your personal and professional lives. Let's practice compassion. Thank you and have a wonderful day.